Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're doing an episode of Win Conditions. Win Conditions where we take lessons learned from video games and apply them to life and/or put them into words so we can explain them to other people. Because there's a lot to be learned from video games, and not at all times do we remember that or properly explain that. Now, before we get into it, this episode is the first recording I have back from a long hiatus, so there's some housekeeping to do here. This is a new audio setup for me. I've set up some of the filters and noise suppression and stuff, but not everything that I used to have, and I'm also in a new space, so the audio might be a little off. Feel free to critique or let me know if you notice anything there. The format for Win Conditions is pseudo podcasty. The video we got going on here does not apply to what I'm saying for the most part. It is gameplay video of my own that does relate to what we're talking about, but not as directly as most of my videos. So until I find a better video format, feel free to look away or treat this like a podcast. This is the first video back in a while, so I'll have a channel update, some of the goals I plan on doing in the future, and until your first engagement with the enemy, those plans will last as long as those plans last. But I will put an update in the description. I won't take much more video time here for that. So let's get straight into the topic. Today's topic is going to be Ironman mode, resets, resources, and basically true Ironman mode. What is hardcore? What is Ironman? And how does that apply to life? Because one of the biggest critiques video games get is that you can reset. There are no consequences. You have extra lives, that sort of thing, and that doesn't apply to life. Which, fair criticism. That's the nature of today's topic. Is what aspects of games can we not apply to life because we do not have the same reset capability. So the sort of thing that kind of sparked this in my brain this morning, because yes, this was one of those eureka, I woke up and I have to record today moments, is that we don't always have the resources we need to get a task done. And if we try too early, we're just ruining our future chances of achieving that goal. Say in a game like, say, Dota or StarCraft in particular, if you say you try to attack an enemy's base before you have too many units, you're just going to lose all those units and start back at square one, and your chances of winning go down significantly. A probe rush, yeah, that's a gambit that may win, but it's a costly one because if you lose all your probes, suddenly you have nothing. So the idea here is that in a lot of these games, there's a couple different timings, right? There's gathering resources, gathering power. In an RPG, you have to level up to a certain point. You got to find the right gear. You have in a game like Dota, you have to get experience and gold. Some of your players are going to get more gold than others because some of the others are going to sacrifice to make sure that they get the more resources. And there's that resource imbalance in the game, which is very true in life. But that's a whole nother topic, I think. So there's this idea that you have to plan your actions based on what you have at the time and what your next step is. And for me, there's two things in life here that I want to talk about. And one is getting back to recording. Recording is something I enjoy a lot. And I kept trying to do it before I was stable. We're not going to go into life details here, but I have a computer again. I have a roof over my head again. And I have a hope and an expectation of safety and security over the next future. So, it's one of those things that anytime you try to accomplish a goal and you miss it, yes, you're going to learn something, and you're gonna learn from your mistakes, and there's opportunity for growth there, but you're also spending a lot of resources in the attempt most of the time, right? Like, I have gone through a couple cycles of computers and locations, and obviously I can't talk about that as much as I was hoping to, but the idea is that there were losses incurred with each attempt. So yes, it's nice to kind of live on the edge, know your limits, and that's definitely how I play video games. And that's the problem, though, is that's that's how I play video games, and I try to apply that to life, and it does not work. At least not as well as it should. Because in a video game like this, so I'm playing Venomancer here, I like to be as aggressive as possible, get myself down to low hit points, low resources, harass the enemy, push myself to the limit, and be as aggressive as possible. And if I apply that to relationships or resources or situations, like in a relationship, yeah, I don't want to push that to the breaking point and find where the limit is, because once you find where that limit is, odds are you've crossed it, right? So, in a game, that's nice to do because you're like, okay, next time I know I can't go that far. You can't do that with relationships in life. I'm not saying that's how I've done it in life, but I mean, that's a mentality I have in games that does not directly correlate. Or, I mean, maybe you could analyze my actions and say it does correlate, but it shouldn't. It should not. You got to play a little safer when it comes to life because you don't have those resets or second chances by default. You do get them at times, right? There is this whole thing about, giving people second chances, and there's whole videos and stories and all that. But that's not the default mode. Default in video games is if it's a game with extra lives, I just respawn. If it's a game with save points, I can just reload the save and make different decisions. If it's a game that's a one-off here and you lose the game, you can just take it to the next match. You're like, hey, I'll come up to this situation again later and I'll have learned from it. But in life, we don't have that immediacy of a reattempt. I can't load my save file and say, hey, let me try this conversation a different way. Like, it's a funny trope in movies, like, hey, can we just start over? Can we pretend I didn't say that? Like, it's funny in movies, but it never works in life. You can't just be like, hey, I said something stupid. Can we go back on that? Like, that's actually probably a really good thing to say at the moment. Like, as soon as you realize you made a mistake, admit it and say, hey, I did not mean that. And that, I mean, that's another false lesson we learned from video games. Like in a video game, like, or maybe it's not false. Like, if you make a mistake in a game like this, there are a lot of options. One option, the very common one, is most people say, no, it's not me. And you blame someone else, right? You just kind of bluff it off. There's certain political figures that do that too. But I think the best course of action is when you make a mistake in life. Like in this game, I just placed two words. That's so funny. It's funny when I say something and it manifests itself somewhere else. But if you make a mistake, the sooner you realize you make that mistake, the sooner you can try to reload that save or go back and make a different decision. But you can't just ignore that you made the mistake. In a video game, sure, you can reset and I never made that mistake. But in real life, you have to admit to the other party, like, hey, that's not how I intended things. Can I have a do-over? Can we try this again? Because there's no save point. Like, I can think back in my life on a couple places I would have a quick save, be like, hey, dude, I would love to load that back up and try that again. There's whole movies about that. It's funny. A lot of these concepts, there's movies about them because they're applicable to life. They're just hard to manage at times. And so there's this idea that in life, it's not even Ironman mode, because when you play a game on hardcore Ironman, sure, you lose your character the first time you die, or you lose your game the first time you lose a mission, but you can try another mission. And ignoring reincarnation or any metaphysical stuff, that's not a discussion for us here. We're talking about just this life, this one chance we have here. There is no, let me go to the next game, or I will start over and have learned my lessons from the beginning. We have to take our lessons and apply them immediately. There's no save points. There's no new game. I can't pick a different character. Like, oh man, I died because I played the Demon Hunter. I need to play someone tankier. I'm going to do my next run as a barbarian. Nope. You must adapt in life. There is no, I want to become a different person immediately. You can become a different person. And that's an important thing. And that's kind of where the crux of this whole idea comes from, where I woke up. Because me, I kept trying to come back to recording sooner than I needed to. There's a lot of other things in life I tried to hold on to too tightly or restart too quickly, instead of taking my time and gathering my resources and recovering to the point that I could make those things happen. One example of something I held on to too tightly, we're not going to go into the relationships and the marriages and all that kind of stuff. Marriage. Um, I have a damaged back. I did not always have a damaged back. What happened is this is not the thing I'm on disability for, but this is the most recent event. I was carrying an object, one of my computers actually, and I stumbled. And instead of dropping the computer, I held on to it. And that instant decision, like it was a matter of like a second, this whole event. Like I was carrying it, I stumbled. The thing only weighs like 20, 30 pounds at most, right? But I kind of tripped and stumbled, and I held on to it, and I kind of stumbled forward, and I broke the bottom 3 vertebrae in my back. And I have trouble walking these days. I have physical therapy and canes and walker. I have all these devices and stuff to recover from it, but I should have dropped the bloody computer. Like I just let it go and be like, dude, accept my loss. I made a mistake. I stumbled. Let's not pay for it more. Obviously, I didn't have any rational, like it was just instinct at that point, right? But it paints the lesson pretty clearly to me. The idea that if I had accepted my loss and just dropped the computer, I would have been out, $1,000-2,000, however that was worth at the time. Instead of I can't go on hikes, I can't walk around the house for more than a couple minutes at a time. There is a lot of things that a broken back has ruined. And I mean, if I had a save point, yeah, I'd go back right before the computer and instantly be like, Aaron, drop the computer when you stumble. Like, easy life, easy decision. 100% would have been awesome. But true Ironman mode, you can't restart in any way, shape, or form. You gotta live with it. So what that means is you have to accept your losses sooner and accept the ability to recover sooner, because other events in life, I had to let a lot of things fall apart, and it was hard for me to do so because my instinct was not to. It was like hold on to everything, make sure that everything's working, like keep as much as I can because then I don't have to start from scratch as hard. No, I needed to let things reset, and reset in life is not instant. It's not a matter of hours or days. It's a matter of months or years at times, right? In the course of my life, there's a couple things that I've let fallen apart, and it's taken me several years, like maybe a decade, to kind of realize the scope of things I needed to let go before I could kind of recover on certain aspects in life. And like, it's the idea that there are resets in life, but those resets usually require outside help or kind of extreme measures. Like, obviously there's a financial stuff, like you can file for bankruptcy and stuff like that. That's not the reset I'm talking about. I'm talking about like yeah, bankruptcy is sort of a reset, but like you have to, if you're going to change your focus, or if you're going to recover from an injury, or if you're going to try to make a different decision in life, it takes time. Time for yourself to change. You got to relearn, like, so in an RPG, all that leveling you did, you got to now level in the other class, right? There's so much stuff that you have to relearn and redo. In a resource management game like StarCraft, like, hey, I lost my whole army, I want to build up another one. You have to get the technology, you have to build the units, you have to go get another base of mining and operation, right? There's a lot to do to change that. Or in Dota 2, hey, I played support the whole beginning of the game and I have no gold, but suddenly I need to play core role, so I have to spend some time farming up gold. And during all these times where you're rebuilding, you might have to let losses happen, or you might have to, let things fall apart, or let someone else take the load for a bit, because resets in life are difficult, and you should probably take them not necessarily methodically, but thoughtfully, right? You have to make conscious effort to make the reset happen. It's just not a click of the button. It's not save point. It's not ask everyone to pretend like things are different, because people can't just pretend things are different. They have to relearn too. You're not the only one involved in resetting or reloading or changing something. There's a lot of people around you that have to adapt to that change too. So anyway, I think at this point I'm going to start talking in circles, and as you may know, I don't do any editing on these other than like take out sneezes and coughs, because otherwise they wouldn't happen. So There will be more episodes of Win Conditions. I am going to hammer out the outlines and the details of how these happen. There's a bunch of other videos I want to try to do, and I'm happy to talk more and discuss because plans are fluid right now. I have a lot of ideas and goals. Win Conditions is definitely going to be one of them. This is something I've had whiteboards and phones full of notes for years on all these things I want to talk about. And yeah, I accept critiques. I accept attaboys. I accept unsubscribes. You do you, and I will try my best to be a positive part of that. Peace.